We now return to Lifetime's Intimate Portrait. By 1990, Jennie Garth, who was first discovered competing in a teenage beauty pageant, was playing in the big leagues. With her first TV series behind her, she was back on the audition trail and heard about a new TV show produced by Aaron Spelling, one of the biggest names in Hollywood.
Now, to me, Aaron Spelling meant like Love Boat and, you know, all the great shows that I had grown up with, and I really wanted to at least get the chance to go in on the audition.
Jennie got the audition, but much to everyone's surprise, didn't impress the casting agent. Thanks to her manager, Randy, Jennie got a second chance.
It was his persistence, actually, that got me in the door for 90210, because they had thrown my headshot into the garbage can.
Finally, after 4 callbacks, she had an audience with the legend himself, Aaron Spelling.
He just walked right up to me and gave me a big hug, and he was incredibly warm and caring, and I didn't feel nervous anymore.
I don't think I've ever been so impressed by someone before they even read. And I was saying, oh, she's going to be terrible. She looks great, and she's marvelous, got a great smile, and brilliant eyes that tell you everything. And she was marvelous, just marvelous.
Spelling and his creative team were so dazzled by Jennie that they decided to hire her before she even got back to her car.
I screamed out through the window, "You've got it, you've got it." I don't know, I've never done anything like that before. I felt like I was 16 years old.
Jennie was the first actor cast for Beverly Hills 90210. 8 others soon followed, all with a lot more acting experience than Jennie. Jennie's first challenge was figuring out how to play her character, Kelly Taylor.
Jennie comes from the Midwest. Kelly comes from Beverly Hills. Jennie came from a family of really no money, and Kelly came from a very wealthy family.
She thought it would be great to play this little spoiled rich girl. Being Kelly Taylor was being able to really express herself. You know, no holds barred.
That's enough. I got some new CDs. A new life? Why don't you take my boyfriend? We're not getting along that well anyway.
Brenda.
What?
After you started going out with Dylan, I tried to get a date with him.
What?
As early as the first season, Jennie brought a surprising depth and range to her character, and soon, writers were creating storylines that matched Jennie's acting abilities.
Okay, thanks for coming. Now, bye-bye. See you later.
Early on, she dealt with date rape.
And one night, after some game, everybody was getting drunk.
She tapped into an emotional level that I hadn't seen her tap into before as an actress.
He kept saying, "Come on, Kel. I know you want it. I know you want it, Kelly."
I watched her deliver that monologue, and I just remember thinking, wow, she's a star. She is a star.
And I did. But not on the ground. He didn't even bring a blanket.
But Jennie's stardom didn't come easy. The cast found themselves thrown together for 15 hours a day, and it wasn't long before personality conflicts emerged. In other words, the set of 90210 became just like a real high school.
At first on the show, everyone did get along because we didn't really know each other and what buttons to push and overstep your boundaries, so everyone just got along. We all had our moments because we were like brothers and sisters, and we were young, and we were contained in this little factory, this little bubble called 90210.
But on the set, the tension between Jennie and Shannon Doherty was quickly escalating. Egged on by the press, Shannon versus Jennie turned into a national news story.
Shannon had just been in quite a successful movie, a film called Heathers. And I think that she came onto the set with the impression that she was the star of the show, and she wanted to establish that control and that power structure early on.
We were two, you know, girls on the same show, and there was a lot of competition between us.
You know, I thought after what you said you would understand. What? Understand that you were putting the moves on my boyfriend?
For the most part, they really didn't get along. And the remarkable thing was, watching the show, they were supposed to be best friends, and I could never tell from Jennie's part that anything was ever wrong.
So if there's anything I can do to help or whatever. Well, if you're offering to help me with rehearse, I'd love it. You would?
She and I probably competed for the writing. We competed for the clothing. Every single element, down to competed for the attention of Tori. I just felt so bad for Jen that I was always like caught in the middle, being her friend, Shannon's friend, and that I wasn't more sympathetic to what was going on with her.
One time we almost fought, and you know, Jason and Luke and Ian will be the ones to tell you that they held us back and kept us from hurting each other.
Yeah, there were a couple of times that Jennie and Shannon wanted to get at each other. Yeah, Luke and I were always great peacekeepers.
Oh, they loved it. No, they would always love a good fight, you know? Add a little excitement to the day.
Shannon's bark is much worse than her bite, but because her bark is so loud, I think that a lot of people just back down, and Jennie wasn't about to back down at all.
While tempers on the set continued to flare, 90210's popularity started to soar, and soon, Jennie and the rest of the cast found themselves some of the most famous people in the world.
No one knew who we were, and then all of a sudden, everyone in the world knew who we were, and I'm not exaggerating. It was the weirdest thing. Because people would literally just grab at you and stuff, and it was really overwhelming. And at that time, there were no boy bands. There was no NSYNC that had happened to before. The only thing that we could really compare it to was like, you know what happened to David Cassidy and the Beatles.
For Jennie, that period culminated at a mall in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where an in-store appearance threatened to spin out of control.
Big group of teens pushing and shoving to see one of their favorite TV stars almost caused a riot today at Southtown Mall.
There were over 8,000 people that were inside this mall, and when she went out on stage, the place went absolutely insane. People, mostly young girls, were pressing forward, trying to get closer, trying to be able to see and hear her.
There were so many fans in there. They were clapping and stomping, and it was scary. It was like you felt them closing in on you.
It got really dangerous for the people out there, and it started to freak me out because I saw people getting hurt and stuff.
Everyone step back. Police say they asked Garth to leave because the crowd refused to back away from the stage after requests were made over the loudspeakers.
Events like these became the norm, and soon 20-year-old Jennie found herself a virtual prisoner of her own success.
I was afraid to go out, and I didn't want to go anywhere. I had like a real phobia of going in public, going to the grocery store. I wouldn't go to the movies. I'd go to work and I'd come home, and that was it.
We would go to places, and I'd almost want to be her bodyguard, you know, leave her alone, she's trying to eat her dinner.
People weren't necessarily staring at me, but I felt like they were, to the point where I would have an anxiety attack or have shortness of breath. And it got really bad for a while, and I just kind of became this weird hermit.
Jennie was besieged by her mounting popularity. But the one thing in her life that was grounding was her growing relationship with 23-year-old rock and roll musician Dan Clark.
I was so in love with Dan. He was great. Dan was a lot like my dad. Physically, he was big and strong. Everyone loved Dan. He had a great sense of humor, a great personality.
Jennie had no patience for casual dating. Even though she was just out of her teens, she was determined to get married.
I wanted to get married so that my dad could walk me down the aisle, and I wanted him to be alive to do that.
So Jennie and Dan were married on April 16th, 1994, in a private ceremony in Beverly Hills.
I ran down the aisle with him as soon as possible because things were so crazy. I needed some sort of stability in my life, and I found it in him.